Well, this is I to the fourth, that's 1. That's I to the fifth, but remember, I to the fifth is I to the fourth times I. I to the fourth is 1, so you're just left with I. You have 3 i's multiplied together, so that's I to the third, but you have a negative sign out there. So that would be the same thing as -1 times negative I. Makes it a positive I. Here's another one. Alright, these two together, that's 1, because it's I to the fourth. That's I squared, which is equal to -1. Last warm-up. Well, these two will be 1, and these 3 will be -I. Lottery numbers 1 to 20, and the winning numbers today are 3, 7, 9, 13, 19. Today's objective is to simplify complex expressions. You'll have a test on Friday. So we're going to work today and tomorrow and try to be ready for that test. Here are flashcards. Just have to say the answer out loud. -I. -I. I. 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 -1. These cancel out, become positive, so you'd have a positive I squared, which is a -1. -1. 1. -1. 1. That would have been I to the 8th. Alright, here's the first example. On this problem, it is I plus 2 over I minus 3. And to get rid of the I on the bottom, you have no other choice but to multiply the top and the bottom by that same expression that's on the bottom with the exception of the sign. If it's I minus 3 on the bottom, you have to multiply by I plus 3, top and bottom. Change the sign of the bottom, multiply the top and the bottom. The bottom is the easiest part because to square this, it's a difference of 2 squares is what the answer is going to be, but this is the factored version. So square the I to get I squared, always put a minus sign, and then square the 3 to get 9, and then leave that for now. On the top, you have to start with the I on the left and multiply it by both things on the right. So that would be I squared plus 3I. And then go to the 2 and do the same thing. 2 times I, 2 times 3. That would be plus 2I plus 6. Now you have to simplify. So you have I squared. I squared equals what? -1. -1 plus 6 is 5. And then you have to simplify the middle. 3I and 2I. That's 5I. On the bottom, I squared is -1, and you're subtracting 9. -1 minus 9 is negative 10. Now, you can't have a negative in the bottom. So to get rid of that negative sign, change the sign of everything in that fraction. So it's negative 5 minus 5i over 10. But there's still one more thing you can do. 5, 5, and 10 are all divisible by what number? 5. So you have to divide everything in there by 5 to come up with negative 1 minus I over 2. Here's example 2. This one is I minus 2 over I plus 5. We have to multiply the top and the bottom by what expression? I minus 5. Opposite sign of what's on the bottom. Whoops, I put a plus on top. That's a minus. Minus 5. So now on the bottom, do the easy part. This is the factored version of a difference of two squares. So square the I to get I squared. Always put a minus sign. And then square the 5 to get 25. On the top, you have to start with the I on the left and multiply it by I and by minus 5. So you get I squared minus 5i. And then move to the minus 2. Minus 2 times I is minus 2i. And minus 2 times minus 5 is plus 10. If you make it to that part, you're pretty much home free. Now we have negative 1 from the I squared. Negative 1 plus 10 is 9. And then minus 5 minus 2 is minus 7. So that's minus 7i. And then on the bottom, it's I squared. That's negative 1 minus 25 is a negative 26. Cannot have a negative on the bottom, so change the sign of everything. 9, 7, and 26. There is no number that divides into those except for 1, and that doesn't help. So this is your final answer. Always make sure that your expression on the top, if you have an I in the constant, is the constant first, and then the I term second. On this problem, you have to multiply the top and the bottom by I minus 3. So on the bottom, you would have I squared minus 9, and on the top, it's I squared minus 3i minus 4i plus 12. For the top, it's minus 1 plus 12, which is 11, and the middle simplifies to minus 7i. The bottom is a negative 10, so change the sign of everything to come up with negative 11i, or negative 11 plus 7i over 10. If the problem were I plus 2 over I plus 6, my first step is to use what's on the bottom, I plus 6, except it's going to be I minus 6. You change the sign. And then on the bottom, when these the way they're set up is I plus 6, I minus 6, it's always going to be alternating like that. So you square the I, always put a minus sign, and then square the last number, 6, to get 36. And then on the top, you have to multiply these out. I'll have to change my color here. We'll go red. Start with the I on the left and multiply it by the two items over on the right. So I squared and then minus 6i. Then go to the 2 and do 2 times I is plus 2i, and then 2 times minus 6 is minus 12. Do you have that so far? Alright, so on the top, I squared is negative 1. Negative 1 minus 12 is negative 13. And then we'll have negative 6i plus 2i is minus 4i. On the bottom, I squared is negative 1. Negative 1 minus 36 is a negative 37. You cannot have a negative on the bottom, so you have to change the sign of everything. 13 plus 4i over 37. And you cannot reduce 13, 4, and 37 because there is no number that goes into all three except 1. So this would be it. When you multiply these together, it's I times I, which is I squared, and then I times minus 1 is minus I. 2 times I is 2I, and 2 times minus 1 is minus 2. That's minus 1 minus 2 is minus 3, and then negative I plus 2I is plus I. On this one, when you multiply, you should get I times I, which is I squared, and then I times minus 5 is minus 5I. 3 times I is plus 3I, and then 3 times minus 5 is minus 15. That's negative 1 minus 15 is a negative 16. And then when you simplify the middle, negative 5 plus 3 will be a minus 2I. For the practice problem, you have to multiply the top and the bottom by I plus 4. And on the top, that would give you I squared plus 4I plus 8I plus 32. On the bottom, it's I squared minus 16. Negative 1 plus 32 is 31, and these add up to give you 12I. On the bottom, negative 1 minus 16 is negative 17. You have to change the sign of everything. Negative 31 minus 12I over 17. The bonus problem should be I squared plus 3I minus I minus 3. Negative 1 minus 3 is negative 4, and 3I minus I is 2I. So negative 4 plus 2I. Here's another bonus. The bonus answer should be 11 plus 8I. Multiply the top and the bottom by I minus 2, and that will give you I squared minus 2I plus 7I minus 14 on the top, and on the bottom I squared minus 4. Negative 1 minus 14 is negative 15. Negative 2 plus 7 is plus 5I. And then negative 1 minus 4 is a negative 5. You have to change the sign of everything. And then, since everything is divisible by 5, you can divide everything by 5. So that would be 3 minus I over 1, but you can't have a 1 on the bottom. So it's just 3 minus I. The bonus answer is 17 minus 11I.